Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the iWorkinSport live interview. This is the show where we talk to accomplished sport business professionals who come here to share their knowledge, their experience, tips, and advice in order to help you succeed in your career. If we're just meeting, my name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport, and I want to say a big thank you for being here with us today. If you're coming back, you know the drill. This is very supposed to be interactive, so we count on you participating, preparing your questions, and you can already start letting us know where you're watching from. That would be great. And if this is your first time, please just do the same. Maybe comment that this is your first time. That would be very nice to know as well. So this episode of the show, I'm going to talk about my guest in 1 second. I want to say that it is brought to you by the FIFA Master, right? So the FIFA Master, you know that I've done that course. It's actually on this side, and it's been appointed again for I think the 12th year, the best sports masters program in Europe, right? I want to tell you that applications are open. So if you're thinking of pursuing a career in sport and would like to invest in education, as I did, as my guest did, this is certainly one I can recommend. So you can follow there is a link in the description, and also this QR code here should lead you to an application. So it's open only for about 2 months. It opened 1 or 2 weeks ago, so it will be there until the first week of January only. They've been a big supporter of the iWorkinSport job fair since the beginning, as other programs, but they are actually our gold sponsor. So I'm happy to end. As I said, I did the course, so I'm happy to recommend that you have a look at that. Anyway, let me talk about my guest today. Gonçalo Almeida is a very, very good friend and one of the nicest people I've met in my life, in sports for sure, but in life in general. But that's not why he's here today, right? He's here because he's a very successful lawyer, an accomplished business owner. He's a visiting professor in several courses and a judge at the FIFA's Agents Chamber, right? So if you're a lawyer working in sport or that wants to work in sport, you can't miss this one. And even if you're not a lawyer, I'm sure that you will learn a lot from him, right? So let me invite Gonçalo to join me right after this. Gonçalo, meu amigo, what a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, João, likewise. Many thanks for your kind invitation. It's a pleasure for me as well.
Well, thank you for making the time. I know that you're a very busy man. And I know as well that I need to let you go on the dots at 6 our time, 5 your time. So let's get to it. Gonçalo, this is, we're going to talk about things very, on the legal aspect of sports, but we also cover the career aspect of sport. So I want to start by asking you what I always ask my guests, maybe to start by giving us a quick summary of your career, what you studied. I know it was law, right? But then how you actually made the movement to start working in sport and how your career progressed until now.
Sure, my pleasure. Well, actually, back in the 90s, I was when I concluded my law degree, I was a bit lost regarding which area of practice I wanted to follow, because I wasn't aiming for a traditional one, like family law, administrative law. So at a certain point, I saw a TV advertisement regarding sports law and the opportunity to do this master in humanities, management, and international sports law, which is now called the FIFA Master. But in those days, it didn't have this precise name. This came later on, although FIFA was sponsoring the master since the beginning, since the first edition. And this was in the year 2000. So when I saw that TV advertise, I realized that this was the way I wanted to go. I wanted to practice law, but in a field that I really love, which is definitely sports. And so I applied for the now called the FIFA Master, the first edition back in 2001. And I concluded it when I concluded it in June 2001. And I had this invitation from FIFA to join the legal department in Zurich. And so I did, of course. For me, it was a fantastic opportunity to start from the top. It was an amazing opportunity. I couldn't miss it. So I accepted it gladly, and I joined the team in Zurich in end of August 2001, where I stayed for nearly 5 years, working at the player status department and dealing with on a daily basis with disputes involving players against clubs, coaches, national coaches, agents, releasing of players for national teams, registration issues. So basically everything that the regulations on the status and transfer players deals with, and not only. We used to deal with those matters on a daily basis, and this was absolutely an amazing opportunity, extremely enriching. And so after 5 years, I mean, that was I had accomplished my goals in terms of know-how, in terms of networking, and so I decided to move to Portugal, where I started my company, my law firm. The firm was incorporated in 2009, so it turned 15 years old this February. And since then, I've been working with sports law at an international level. And when I say international, really, having clients and partners from a bit around the world, dealing with disputes before the confederation bodies, or FIFA's bodies, the Court of Arbitration for Sports, and also at a national level, of course, here in Portugal. And last year, I had the opportunity, not the opportunity, I had a very, very honorable invitation to join the FIFA Football Tribunal as a member of the new Agents Chamber. So, which obviously it is a great honor for me. It's also a privilege from a technical perspective, professionally speaking. And since then, I'm one of the judges of the Agents Chamber.
Very good, Gonçalo. And well, you have kind of various roles, right? So you're this accomplished lawyer, you're a business owner, you're a judge, as you said, at the FIFA Tribunal there for the Agents Chambers. You also teach in several programs.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what a normal day is like for you?
Well, it's as you said in the beginning, when you add all that to a social life, very limited, but above all to a family with kids, then it's extremely busy. 24 hours is definitely, and most of the time, is not enough. But hey, here we are. So we have to, establish our priorities. There's one thing that for me is now easier to do, which is to practice law, because now I have a team of 6 people, excellent professionals, specialized in sports law, who dedicate themselves on a daily basis exclusively to sports law. So it's much easier for me to delegate and to supervise. And of course, those big cases, I end up following them closely. But there's definitely one thing that you mentioned that I like very much. I enjoy it a lot, which is to have the opportunity to participate in debates and above all, to teach in some courses, also a bit around the globe. I really find that a fantastic opportunity, because it provides you with, it's an opportunity that enables you to share the experience and the knowledge, but simultaneously to learn a lot. And in order to share knowledge and to address a specific topic, no matter if you deal with that topic on a daily basis, almost every day in a year, you need to go through the regulations and you need to check if there's anything new going on, in order to pass the right knowledge. So that is very enriching experience. And of course, in the end, you end up knowing very interesting people from several jurisdictions, and also very interesting point on being on lecturing in universities or institutions, is that you end up sometimes contacting with people who place very interesting questions, just because they are not in the sports environment. So they ignore the regulations, so they come up with certain questions which apply to maybe other sports or other realities. And this is quite interesting because it stimulates you to think about alternatives to other options. That's definitely one of my favorite things about the teaching.
Great. And well, so when you are in contact with so many students and all, so what is the main advice that you normally give them, for those that want to work in sport? Well, as a lawyer, probably is what you answer the most, people that want to do sports law, but also say in different roles. They just think about working in sport in general. Do you have an advice that you give to all of them? Maybe a different one too, if they're a lawyer, and a different one if they're in general. What is the advice that you normally give?
Every now and then I have people contacting me in order to find out whether it's worth to invest in a master's in sports. And there are several options, of course, and also each one of these options has different financial demands. I usually tend to speak about my experience with the FIFA Master, which was an excellent experience. And the reason why I'm working in the sports field, particularly in football, but not limited, also with other sports like, swimming, motorsports, basketball, and so futsal and so on. I owe it to the FIFA Master. This was the master which opened the doors to me. Of course, we have to go back 23 years ago, okay? And in those days, there were not that many people working in sports. And there were only just a very few lawyers who had this expertise in sports law. So a lot of lawyers would practice labor law, and would apply labor law to sports, in many cases without knowing the specificities of sports. So when it comes to that point, I always strongly advise them to do a master in sports. Of course, my favorite one is the FIFA Master, because I mean, it's not without a reason that it's been winning every year after year for 12 years, being considered the best sports master in Europe. So it's definitely for a reason. Also, because also you have to look at it from the practical side of the story, because with the FIFA Master, you have the opportunity to visit the federations, to visit the clubs, not only football, but other sports as well, and this brings you a better knowledge of the reality. So when people ask me about how to enter in the sports field as a lawyer, I tell them, look, first of all, it comes without saying that you love sports. So this prerequisite is accomplished. Okay. Now, what you need to do is, in my opinion, if you can go for it, do a master's in sport, and then apply. Don't give up, because the sports entities in general, in the old days, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, for instance, football clubs were not open to hire these young generation of experts in sports, not only in sports law, but also in other areas connected with sports. But in nowadays, fortunately, things have evolved, and sports entities in general, are very, very keen and are looking for experts in these areas. So if you do a master's in sports, this is like half a way to get it, because you've learned, at least in theory, how it goes. And then, of course, don't give up. Send the CVs, contact the people. And now the industry is very much open. And some people say, no, there's a lot of people nowadays. There's a lot of competition in sports law. Well, it's true there are several lawyers, but there are many lawyers. But lawyers who really, really practice sports law, almost on an exclusive basis, you have just a few. Still have many, but a small percentage out of that big number. And what I advise people to do is, if in the case of lawyers, try to have start working at a law firm which actually works with sports law. Not any law firm, because now it's very trendy, at least here in Portugal, not only, but I can tell you in Portugal and Brazil as well. It's very trendy to say for law firms to say, we work with family law, administrative law, criminal law, and also sports law. But in the end, they don't do much about sports law. They have dealt with one case involving a football club in the amateur leagues, and so you have to search which law firms actually work with sports law. So you gain the experience on the daily basis experience, and this will boost you to work in the future for a club or a federation if that's what you're aiming to. João, your mic is off. Your mic is off, João.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Great. No, just to say the lawyers that are out there that already work in sport and are interested in a discussion about some legal topics. There's some hot ones there that we're definitely going to touch about it. Just maybe a couple of more questions, quick ones on your career and advice for people that want to start. And then we're going to get into some maybe hot topics that will be of interest, especially to those that are interested in the legal side of sport. Gonçalo, and in terms of skills, right, if you kind of make a self-assessment, what do you think are the skills necessary to succeed as a sports lawyer nowadays? Or if you want to even talk about working in sport in general, and perhaps maybe also talk about what are your skills that you think allowed you to be successful in what you do.
Well, I wouldn't like to talk about me. I don't think it looks good.
But you're
What I would,
invited to talk also a little bit about you. So
yeah, well, I think I would hire someone um, who's a good communicator, who is a hard worker, and someone with a mentality, a flexible mentality. Someone flexible, someone that can easily negotiate a contract with a South American club, and the next day do the same with a Northern Europe club. These mentalities is absolutely needed if you want to work at an international level. I'll give you an example. For instance, if you're negotiating with a South American, let's say Brazilian, uh, whatever the party is, that doesn't need to be a club. Regarding payments, as one thing that it's because it's cultural. This entity will ask you is for the possibility to pay in several installments. If you're negotiating a settlement agreement with a Brazilian football club that owes your client, let's say whatever the amount is, they're gonna ask for to cancel that in installments. You can say the same towards other jurisdictions for sure. Nowadays with the financial fair play and the need to spread the investments and the costs throughout the years, I mean, this is pretty much global. But culturally, the Brazilians, they don't ask you for a discount. They rather ask you to pay in installments. Whereas if you go to the Gulf region or North Africa, they will ask you for a discount. Okay, that's for sure. So what I'm trying to say is that the difference of mentalities to work at an international level, you need to be flexible. You need to be tolerant. You cannot be strict. So this is a tremendous advantage. And of course, I mean, your human skills, the way you communicate with people, the way you present yourself, in a collaborative manner, trying to find solutions. This is very important. No one wants to hire a lawyer who doesn't come up with a solution. No one wants to hire a lawyer who brings up only problems, obstacles. Everyone wants a lawyer who provides you with a solution. Okay? So if you're that kind of person and you're a hard worker, as I said, definitely you have already a big advantage.
very good, Gonçalo. By the way, I think you just answered Pab's question here, right? Who's listening from Birmingham. There's a few more people that are saying hi. I'm going to tell you where they're watching from, just so you have an idea. But I think we just covered that. He said, as a lawyer, you've learned the resilience and body language and other soft skills over time. Which soft skills do you wish you had at the start? Oh, actually, maybe you can talk about this. Which soft skills do you wish you had at the start of your career that we can learn at entry level?
Well, definitely, I wouldn't call it a soft skill, but the experience you earn with time. This is the biggest advantage a good lawyer has, comparing with others. The self-confidence that you acquire from experience. You've been there many times, so you've been faced with the obstacles before, and this is a tremendous advantage comparing when I started working at FIFA. I didn't have enough self-confidence. I was working in a foreign language. I was a different person. I mean, That comes without saying, 25 years ago. But now when I look back, I say I wish I had been through what I've been through these 25 years, because now, I mean, I can discuss pretty much every issue with enough confidence to earn a case, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Gonçalo, let's talk about some, hot topics, or at least some more legal-oriented things in sports. Just before we do that, I just want to pass by some people that are saying hi here. We talked about Pav in Birmingham. We have someone that is identified as NP in Portugal. Anthony is in Uganda. We have Pedro in Brazil. Arjun is in India. Hey, Arjun, how's it going? Also a FMA, a FIFA Master alumnus. There's a question from Valeria there. Valeria, we're going to get to that in a second. There's also Lovemore Mulanga in South Korea. So you see that we're touching almost every continent here. There's a few more people. If you want to let us know where you're watching from, that would be great as well. But Gonçalo, so you were a judge, right, in the Agents Chamber at FIFA. So what's the current state of the agents regulations? I remember a few years ago, one needed to have this a FIFA license to be an agent, unless if they were already a lawyer or a relative of the player, right, or a close relative. And then I think 2015, you reminded me a bit late earlier that was no longer the case. Then some time ago, some new regulation was required. Now, what's the status? Can you paint a picture for us what that is?
Well, I'll have to go back in time a little bit to explain the evolution of the regulations. Okay, since the early 90s, the agents regulations that were stipulated, they have evolved in some cases at a certain point significantly, in other cases not that much. But there were several editions of the players agents regulations, so it was the name in those days, until with an effective licensing system, which was in place until April 2015, when the regulations on working with intermediaries came in place, and then there was a huge shift in the way FIFA regulated this activity. In my opinion, it was a disaster, a complete disaster, when the intermediaries were introduced back in April 2015. An absolute disaster, because, and I said that publicly. I think the fact that you are somehow connected with FIFA or with any other entity, by the way, it should not prevent you, and it did not prevent me from saying what I think. I mean, this is the way things contribute to evolution. This is how it works. So in those days, when I realized what was going on with the implementation of the intermediaries in 2015, I said it publicly. This is a complete disaster. This is absolute nonsense, because the activity from now on, anyone starting from this point, anyone without any license, without any knowledge or experience in the area, could actually represent a player, a coach, a club in a certain transaction. So this is not only how should I put it? This, I think it's a danger to the activity itself, because if you hire someone to provide you with certain assistance, in this case as an agent, then this person is supposed to be actually well prepared to do so, and without the licensing system, anyone anyone people who have never worked with football, people, I had cases, I dealt with cases of people who had just a child playing at a football club at the age of 12, 13, 14, but because they had this kid playing and they thought that would be a new Cristiano or a new Messi, then they wanted to be intermediaries. So this is absolutely ridiculous, okay? So it was a major step back on FIFA's regulations when they got rid of the licensing system. And I think FIFA and the administration of Mr. Blatter, who did very positive things, not only negative, by the way, especially at a commercial level. As we all know, we have to see the evolution of football to easily conclude that there were very positive things. But at this level was a disaster, absolute disaster. So without the licensing systems, this meant that, again, that anyone could practice as an agent. And on top of that, there were some aspects. For instance, you would need to be registered. So there was no license, but you needed to be registered with your national association. Okay, so let's say you're Portuguese and you want to be registered with the Portuguese, complete a deal, a transaction, the negotiation of an sports employment contract, or a transfer agreement involving in Portuguese territory. You would need to be registered with the Portuguese FA, okay, as an intermediary. You just have to pay. You just need to be over 18, no criminal record, pay for an insurance policy, and 1,000 euros to the FA. That's it, nothing else. Can you imagine this? It was completely deregulated. The activity was chaotic, put it that way. But if this same agent wanted to participate in a transfer of player to Spain, then he would have to be registered with the Spanish FA, okay, and so on and so on. If you would work at an international level, if you would work with let's say 6, 7, 8 markets, you would need to be registered with the respective FAs. Can you imagine the costs, insurance and the annual fee? But above all, in some cases, you would need to have to go through a knowledge test nationally, like it happened in Italy or in France. So it was chaotic, was very bureaucratic. There was a lot of, it was not supervised. Before we had the player status committee, which was the FIFA committee in charge of dealing with disputes, analyzing and deciding upon disputes involving agents. But starting as from April 2015, when these intermediaries regulations came into force, then there was no longer FIFA jurisdiction. What did that mean? It meant that if, as an agent, you had an issue with a client, then you have to revert to the national courts, unless you would have like a promissory clause in the agreement, stipulating that the CAS, Court of Arbitration for Sports of Lausanne, or any other arbitration tribunal would be competent to decide upon that dispute. Okay, but most of the cases, most of the contracts, there was no compromissory clause in that respect, so people would revert to national courts. Like, out of curiosity, it was like 2 months ago, I had a hearing here in Portugal for a case between a big club and an agent involving approximately 2 million euros. And this case was decided, we're still waiting for the decision, but was decided by a judge. This lady, could be a man, whatever, but she started the hearing stating the following: gentlemen, addressing the lawyers, gentlemen, you'll have to excuse me, but I'll need your help to lead me in some aspects because I don't understand football. I know nothing about football. I ignore the rules. I don't even like football, to be honest. I don't follow it. So you'll have people deciding upon disputes involving considerable amounts, who have no knowledge at all about the specificities of sports, have no experience. They don't know that it was a general rule to charge, for instance, 10% of the remuneration of the contract, as a fee to the agent. So this was a big mistake from FIFA. Instead of having
which court was that one?
It was a court here in Portugal, a court in Lisbon, an ordinary court. Okay, because what I'm trying to say is because without FIFA jurisdiction, people would have to revert to the ordinary courts unless they would have, as again I say, and they would have stipulated in the contract that they would revert to CAS or any other arbitration court. Okay, so you have these ordinary courts with people who sometimes ignore football or sports, whatever the sport is, and sometimes they even dislike football. Okay, but they are deciding upon disputes involving millions. Okay, so this was another big mistake. These regulations, just to come up, just to conclude regarding the intermediaries, these regulations were so ridiculous, and I have no problems at all in using the right word because it is what it is. You have the example. You have the example that agents following these regulations, the intermediaries, they were entitled, they were allowed to represent minors of age, and for FIFA we talk about under 18. But guess what? They could not be remunerated. So you, as an intermediary, you're entitled to represent a minor of age to work. Okay, but you cannot be remunerated for your work. Okay, so this is silly. This is nonsense, I would say. And then I think with time, of course, and especially with the most recent administration, people realized that there was a need to change this reality, to implement new regulations, to re-implement the licensing system, to reinforce the FIFA jurisdiction, get it back now with the new Agents Chamber. For instance, regarding the agents, the minors, you can continue to represent minors of age, but now you can be remunerated. Of course, if you're working, you should be remunerated after a certain age, but it is a very reasonable age, So there are many good things were implemented with these new regulations, which came in force beginning of
that were implemented when?
Last year. Beginning of last year was the licensing system in January 2023, and then in 1st of October 2023 was the rest of the regulations. Okay, the rights and
is it still valid now at this moment?
There you go. That brings us to the reality, the current reality. It is what happened is that due to some parts of the regulations, namely but not only, people speak mainly about the remuneration, the remuneration caps, because FIFA has implemented some caps regarding the remuneration of the agents, and people speak a lot about that, but it's not only about that. Okay, it's more the media focusing in that specific aspect. So there were agents associations, not only in Europe but in other jurisdictions, such as, for instance, João, in Brazil, started lawsuits against in order to have these regulations, these FIFA regulations, agents regulations, suspended because they were against these obligations and these limitations, these new limitations, and this court in Germany, Dortmund district, decided to have these regulations suspended. And because of that suspension in Germany, and because FIFA could not, you have 211 national associations. You cannot have competitive advantages between them. If these regulations are suspended, let's say in Germany, and are not in another jurisdiction, this other jurisdiction will lose power, will lose some benefits, competing with the German jurisdiction. So FIFA decided last December to suspend universally these regulations until the European Court of Justice actually takes a decision upon the validity of these regulations, if they comply with competition law, especially with competition law, European Union competition law.
I see. Gonçalo, listen, we're already with about 15 minutes to go, so I think I'm going to bring just one other topic to it. But before I do that, just quickly, because there are already a couple of questions here. There's Valeria is waiting. Pedro sent another one. There is a comment here from Alexandre Dias saying Gonçalo is one of the greatest reference on the topic. Good to see you both there. Obrigado, Alexandre. And I passed one that I couldn't. There's a fan of yours saying Força Benfica here. So
I think we both know this lady, right?
We do. Gonçalo, so another hot topic that hit the news in the past weeks is the so-called Diarra case, right? I even posted a short comment on LinkedIn, which generated some good engagement. The post said, "Is Diarra the new Bosman?" So what can you tell us about that case?
Well, from what I had the opportunity to analyze, and I didn't go deep in the matter. I honestly, I didn't read the decision, or the decision, no, the advice from the legal advice from the European Union. What I can say is that I wouldn't go as far as that. It's not a new Bosman. I think we would be definitely exaggerating if we would call it Bosman 2.0, as some people do. What I would say is definitely this basically had the beginning with Diarra versus Lokomotiv Moscow. Okay, and so Diarra, because of his non-release, and he was sentenced to pay a huge compensation to the Russian club. He reverted to the national courts in Belgium, and these Belgian courts decided to consult the European Union, okay, the Court of Justice of the European Union, to provide a legal opinion about Article 17 of the regulations on the status and transfers, which is the main article of the RSTP, if I may say so, but definitely of the Chapter 4 of contractual stability. And the opinion which was issued this October, beginning of the month, was that this Article 17 went too far regarding the consequences of contractual breaches, namely with regard to the joint liability of the players' new clubs. When a player terminates a contract and signs for a new one, this new club is presumed to have induced the player to breach a contract, and hence, according to the current regular RSTP, this new club is jointly liable to pay the compensation that may be awarded to the former club, for the player's breach of contract. And what is this opinion from the Court of Justice is that this is too harsh, and that FIFA went too far. This is affecting competition at a club's level, and that this is not acceptable. And same with regard to the sporting sanctions to be enforced on players and clubs. Okay, regarding, well, especially the 4-month suspension or the club's ban on registering players during 2 registration periods. So this is a legal opinion which is not mandatory for the Belgian court to adopt, better said. But since it was the Belgian court itself who requested for this legal opinion, for the Court of Justice of the European Union to address these and provide us with the feedback regarding the validity of this Article 17, it's pretty much safe to say that the Belgian court will adopt this viewing and will enforce this viewing, and therefore. And as a consequence of that, FIFA has already, in a very, very positive way, I may say, things that did never happen in the past. When I was working there in 2001, when I started 2001, this didn't happen. FIFA was hardly ever had any dialogue with football stakeholders, with the FIFPro, with the European leagues, and so on and so on. And nowadays, this new administration. We have to congratulate for the good things that are done, and this new administration has the advantage of going through dialogue with its stakeholders, and this is why the chief officer of the legal division, Emilio, he already said it publicly that FIFA is absolutely open to discuss an amendment to Article 17. With the stakeholders, in order to move forward, because as long as there's dialogue and there's an agreement regarding the future of Article 17, it's much more preferable rather than having legal disputes before courts with endless legal disputes.
Right. Listen, I did have maybe a follow-up questions, but just to be conscious of time, I'm actually going to pass to questions from the audience. I'll start here with Pedro Quintela de Aguiar. I'm not sure where he's watching from. He asks, how does FIFA apply solidarity and compensation in multi-club international transfers? Are there exceptions for training clubs?
No, the same way. But each club is treated on an individual basis, independently of being part of a multi-club ownership, which is a new reality. And this is very interesting. This is something that I can foresee that it will be addressed by FIFA soon. I have no privileged information in that regard, but the multi-owner clubs multi-ownership, having these like Red Bull that has several clubs, 777 and so on. You have to pay more attention to this reality. The City Group, for instance, yes, absolutely. This is gonna need a specific regulation in order to prevent abuse, and I think this is going to be an area in which FIFA will intervene sooner or later, hopefully sooner.
Right. Very good question. Are you a lawyer, Pedro? Let us know in the comments if you're still there. A question from Valeria, going back when you were talking about your sort of company. She says, thanks for the webinar. Gonçalo, when you founded your law firm, how did you start, to gain your first clients?
Well, hi, Valeria. First of all, it's nice to hear from you again. Well, first of all, I was lucky enough to be one of the pioneers in sports law, as I said previously. So competition was very, very limited in those days. And once you leave FIFA, having worked for FIFA for nearly 5 years in the player status department, which is again the legal department dealing with labor disputes, transfer disputes, injuries, and so on. I mean, you gain a tremendous advantages, and you gain a certain prestige, a certain name, and I think it was easy for me to start. I mean, clubs would address me spontaneously. When I left FIFA, one of my first clients was FC Porto. I had several disputes representing before FIFA and CAS and UEFA, representing FC Porto, although I'm a Benfica supporter. But hey, we are all professionals, right? So without making any effort, without publicizing it, also because marketing online in those days, it hardly existed, you know. So it was by word of mouth. Then if the clients are happy, and this is what I think it's the most important by far. And I think all the lawyers everyone who's watching.
As you said, Gonçalo, right? So...
Sorry, I was just to complete. As everyone,
as I was saying, Gonçalo,
that by the best way to promote yourself is by word of mouth. If your client is satisfied, then you did a good job. He's gonna recommend you to another one.
Yeah, I was actually going to say exactly that. Sorry to interrupt. Maybe there's a small delay there too. Right, we have, I think, four minutes to go. So let me ask you the usual two questions that I ask my guests. We could talk here still about other matters regarding transfer of players. For instance, in women's football, I don't know if it's the same or not, or other even, there's regulations of betting and all these things in sport. But we don't have time for it because you got to go. Maybe we'll do a second one, Gonçalo, at some point with a few specific topics. We do a master class together, something like that. And but Gonçalo, to wrap up, two very easy ones. What's your favorite sporting moment? Nothing legal or law related.
My favorite sporting moment is definitely when Portugal won the Euro 2016, when Eder scored the goal again in the final against France. It was an amazing moment for us as a small country. It's amazing when you realize the achievements that such a small country has reached. We are only a 10 million people's country, and we already had in the past the best futsal player, the best football player, the best football coach, European champions. It was a major achievement. So that was a very happy moment as a nation and for me in person as well.
Although as a nation, probably your biggest achievement was getting to the other side of the Atlantic and founding us. And last one, Gonçalo. I always ask my guests to recommend, say, a book to our audience. Do you have a book that you would like to recommend before you go?
A book?
We have 2 minutes.
A book? Yeah. Well, there's one which has touched me deeply. It's Mitch Albom's bestseller, Tuesdays with Morrie. It's an amazing story between an old man about to die and a young man. They didn't know each other. They get to know each other, and their friendship at the end is really touching. If you read it, trust me, you're gonna end up crying like a child. That's for sure. It's an amazing book.
All right. Thank you, Gonçalo. We have Al-Lamin saying hi from Senegal as well. Thank you for being with us. We're just 1 minute before 5 p.m. for you there, 6 p.m. for me. I know you got to go. Thank you so much, Gonçalo. Thanks for everyone that participated. Thanks again for the questions, for making this interactive and even more interesting. I always say, Gonçalo, that the best questions come from them. So great to have everyone participating. And Gonçalo, I hope to see you very soon, my friend. It's always great whenever we meet.
Anytime, João. It was a true pleasure to have this conversation with you, and I hope it was a little bit enriching at least, okay? All the best. Stay safe.
Great. Stay there 1 second until I finish this. Bye-bye, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.